Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf It. Today we're doing Kesubos Daf Pevav, number 86. I have a great share for you today. We're going to be talking about Mocher Shtarchov L'Chavero V'Chazer V'Machla. You sell a loan document, someone owes you money, you sell it to somebody else for him to collect the loan, and then you go ahead after you sold it and you forego the loan. The guy doesn't have to pay back the loan anymore. It's not really fair. What happened exactly there? How could you do this? How could you sold the shtar to somebody else? The loan, theoretically, you sold to somebody else. How does it work that you don't have to pay it back anymore? We'll talk about this concept called Priyas Balchov Mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to pay back a loan. If you didn't know that, it's not just a monetary obligation. Or maybe it's only a mitzvah, not a monetary obligation. Seems to be differing opinions about this. We'll talk more about this in Yud Ben Zion to resolve all the different contradictions that the Gemara seems to bring up. Let's start from the bottom of Pei Hey Amud Bey's last two lines. Kriv Seder Rav Nachman Zvinto L'Ksuvasa B'Tuvas Hana. Right? We talked about yesterday that a wife, she sells her ksuva, and she's mochel. It doesn't work because the husband owns her part of her ksuba. So the relative of Rav Nachman, she sold her ksuva B'Tuvas Hana. Now, when you sell your ksuba, let's say the mono masayim, the 200, the 100 you deserve to get, you only get it in one of three cases, right? If the husband dies, you get it. If you predecease the husband inherits your ksuba, you don't get it. And if you get divorced, in two out of three cases you would get it. If you get divorced, you get it. And if the husband dies first, you get it. But if you predecease the husband, then you don't get it. The husband inherits you. He inherits her. So when you sell the ksuba, you're selling it at a discounted rate, a discounted rate, let's say 2/3 of the value. Igrisha, she ended up getting divorced. Now she's able to collect the ksuba of a shchiva, but she died. Now, technically, right, the ksuba was sold, so the people who got the ksuba, bought the ksuba, have the right to collect the ksuba. So the people who the woman sold it to, they're coming to her daughter. She only had one daughter, apparently, according to Rashi. She only had one daughter. They were going to her daughter, and they were demanding that they pay her the ksuba. Amur Rav Nachman, they said to Rav Nachman, there's no one who gives her a halachic loophole over here to get out of paying the money. So what did he say? Top of Pevav and Aleph. He said, we're going to see that even the Yoresh, even the inheritor, can waive a ksuva that was sold. She's the inheritor of the mother. Let her go and forgo the ksuva that her father shouldn't have to pay. And then the ksuva will be forgone, will be waived. And she'll inherit whatever her mother had, and she wanted to pay the ksuva. Shama Azza Achilta, the girl heard about this. She went and she was mochel the ksuva. Amar Rav Nachman, Asinu Atzmena Korchei Dayanim. Even though technically it's a valid loophole, Rav Nachman was upset that he made himself like a lawyer. Mikara Ma'isar Lusov Ma'isar. The Gemara had a dialogue like this on earlier, and Kesubos Daf Nun Beis. So the Gemara says, what did he hold originally? That he gave her this eitzah, this loophole, Lusov Ma'isar, and why at the end did he regret this seemingly? Mikara Stavram Sarchal Salam originally thought, no, you have to give loopholes to your relatives, right? Because, you have to try to help out your relatives. Well, yes, technically you could do that if you're not an important person. You have to go to a door. Rav Nachman was one of the Gedolei Ador, like Rav Yochanan, who did it early in the Masechta. Gufa, the Gemara says back to the original text of this halacha. Amar Shmuel, Amocha Shtarkov L'Chaver V'Chazer Machlo Machol. You sell a shtarko, a loan document, not necessarily a ksuba, any loan document, someone owes you money, you sell it to someone else, and then you go ahead after you sold it, and you forgo the loan. Machol. Allah is machol. Afir is yours machol. Even if you die and you leave an inheritor, he can be machol. The shtar ksuba, the shtar chov. Amar Rav Huna Rav Yeshua, if the person who bought the shtar chov is a smart guy, he goes to the person who owes him the money now, he bought the shtar, right, gives him a couple dollars, and writes a new shtar in his name, because technically the shtar is written in the name of the person who originally lent him the money, so then he'll be able to collect the loan in full, even if the guy is mochel. Amar says, let's say what happened was he was mochel the shtar after he sold it. So if you hold of Dina de Garmi, which is a discussion in Maseches Baba Kama, what exactly Garmi is, basically it's like causative damage. You cause something, is like groma. There's groma and garmi. What distinction between them is very hard to distinguish. The Ramban has a whole kuntras distinguishing between garmi and groma. But basically, all you have to know right now, it's basically the same thing. You didn't exactly damage someone, you caused the damage. Right? Mochel the chov, Now he's no longer able to collect it. That's garmi. So if you hold the garmi, you have to pay for, right? Because you're a mochel shtar, you have to repay the person you sold to the entire value of the shtar. However, if you don't hold the garmi, the only thing the person can collect is the value of the paper, the value of the chov, the amount of money you can't collect. Have a uvda of a kafir of Rafael Rav Ashi. Agli made kik shur letzalmi. This actually happened that Barry Rav Ashi sold the shtar chov, and it was mochel it, and Rafram, who was the dayan, forced Rav Ashi to pay shur letzalmi a beam, a carved up beam, meaning a beam its full value. He made him pay the full value. Apparently, he was dayan din of the garmi, so therefore you have to pay the full value. Why you could do this and it's not called directly being mafsid someone money? It's only garmi. And if you're not done, then you don't have to pay back. Only the domain nayara. I'm going to explain that more, Ian, with Ben Sion. Someone has creditors, right? He has a creditor who wants to collect a loan from him, and he also has a Kesubos isha, right? He divorced his wife, and she wants to collect the ksuva. He has land and he has money. How do you pay the balchov, right? What do you lend him money? So technically, the way the balchov you pay back is with money. The woman, the whole shtar ksuva has a lien on all your property. So the proper way to pay back ksuva is giving her the land. That's the way it should be. You only have one piece of land. It's only the value of one of either the loan or the ksuva. The balchov, first you give it to the balchov, not to the woman. My time. Like you mentioned many times, the woman wants to get married more than a man. So therefore, if you don't pay her the ksuva in these cases, it's not going to stop her or stop women from getting married. Someone, he's a creditor, he's trying to get back his money, and he has a piece of land. The creditor comes, he wants to take this land. And he says, go, fine, I'll pay you back from the land. We tell the guy, you can't just pay him back in land. He gave you money, he gave you cash, mezuman, right? You have to go give it back to him. You have to sell your land, right? You're going to lose money probably on all the legal fees, the tivuch and the real estate agent, and you're going to lose money. But so what? You have to pay him back in money. He doesn't have to take that expense upon himself. He said, tell me exactly what exactly happened. I told him most about I'm sorry, let's go back a second. I'm reading lo. Emily, so he said back to him, he asked him, is that what you're supposed to do? Tell him to go sell his land and give him the money? He said, no. One second. I'm a little confused there. Right. Right, so that's what he said. He said the halacha is you have to go sell the land and give him money. Amrle, when he heard about this, Rav Chama, he said to Rav Papa, he said, lo, that's not what we do. He said, Rava did not say this. Sorry, he said, Rava did not say this. He did not say that. So, Emily Guf Dav the Hechahava. So he says, tell me exactly what happened. Amrle told him, also, it wasn't a regular case. It wasn't a regular case where he told him, I only have land, go take the land. This person had money to pay back, and when he just gave the money as a deposit to a goy who was going to be hard to get the money out of, a strong goy. He was powerful. He was in the part of the mafia. He gave it to a goy, so it was not proper what he did. Who asked Shaloga Hogan? He did something improper. Therefore, they told him. The judges said you acted improperly by giving it to this strong non-Jew. He can't get the money out. Therefore, you have to go sell your land and give him the money. But apparently, if you just had land, really legitimately, you didn't have any money, so then you can technically give him the land and force him to take the land if you don't have money. Rav Kahana, Rav Papa, Priyas Balchov mitzvah. You said, Rav Papa, we're going to discuss this morning in Ben Sion. Priyas Balchov, paying back a loan is a mitzvah. I mean, it's also a financial obligation. According to the article, according to the Ramban in Bava Basra, the Ritvan Bava Basra, and Rashi and Bava Metzia, it seems to be that there's an opinion, according to Rav Papa, that it's only a mitzvah. It's a spiritual obligation to pay back a loan, but there's no financial obligation to pay back a loan. If he says, "I'm alone, nichli David mitzvah," he says, "I want to do this mitzvah. I'm not going to pay back my loan." It's a great way of getting out of paying back a loan. I'm not into mitzvahs anymore. I went off the derech. I don't have to pay back my loan, right? It's very easy. Get off the derech. You don't have to pay the loan. What do we do? Amrle Tanina. We learned this in, I think it's in Sagas Erech. Medvar Amura Mrs. Losa say. Mrs. Losa say we give him malchus, 39 malchus. So Mrs. Ase, going to Omlo Ase Sukkah Vein Osa. Going to the sukkahs now. You tell him the guy, he's saying, I'm not going to build a sukkah. And they say, build a sukkah. He doesn't build a sukkah. Ase Lulav Vein Osa, buy a lulav. And he refuses to buy a lulav. Makin Osa, the top of Pevevam Beis, Makin Osa Ashetete Nafsho, you beat him until his nefesh leaves him. Sounds like you killed the guy. I mean, hard to understand how you actually kill the guy. You allowed to kill the guy. And secondly, the second question is that it's a mitzvah losa are generally more severe. For example, the Yoredea Paskin in Simon Kuftan Zion 157, that you have to give up your life even if someone threatened you not to do a losa say. If it's shmad or something like that. Sorry, you have to not give up your life. Give up all your money. You have to give all your money, not do a losa say. You only have to give up your life for the Gamal Chamuras. Just give up all your money. So Allah say yes, but a mitzvah's essay you only have to give up a shlish, 1/3 of your money. So how could it be the mitzvah's essay are more severe? By mitzvah's Allah say you give him malchus, 39 malchus, and then you stop. Here you beat him until his life, his soul departs. Hard to understand. We'll explain this more in Yud Ben Sion. It doesn't really mean that you should kill the guy. To all those Talmudists who take the words literally, please don't take this literally. Rami Baracham Rav Chisda Reza Gite closes Garshibo El Achar Shloshim Yom. Someone says he gives a get to his wife. He says he makes a tanai. He says, "Here's your get, but it'll only be effective after 30 days." He placed it. The get she can keep it in a side street. I don't know, in some vendor store or something in a side street. Maho, and now 30 days later, it's still in the store. Is it effective? And she goes and comes to take the get. Is it effective or not? Maho, Amalei Eina Megareshes. It's not a valid gershim. The Rav Shmuel. We learned from Rav Shmuel, who commented about our Mishnah, the Rav Shmuel, the Amitar Vayu, right? If the nechasim of the person, right, the woman who died, or nichsim malog, are piled up in Rabim, so therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, right, you have to give it, you have to divide it evenly, give it fairly, give it to the Ein Merachma Medin. Rabbi Akiva says, and we don't say like a retard phone that if you toface it, you keep it, because it's a public area. Siddur Shirabim dam. Siddur Shirabim is like a Shirabim dam. It's not the place of, it's not the place of the woman, right? It's not in her rishus. You have to get into her rishus. It's not her rishus. It's in the Siddur Shirabim. It's like Shirabim. So therefore, just like Shirabim, right? You're not zocha for it, right? So here also, can't be zocha in the get. Adarabba. The Gemara says maybe it's the opposite. Megoresh is Rav Nachman. From Nachman, Rav Nachman, Rav Ravua. He says, go now, do a mashicha, pull the para, do a kinya, but it won't be, the kinya won't take effect till after 30 days. Kana, it's kona after 30 days. Even after 30 days, in the marshland, right, which seemingly like Sharab. And my love, Hainu Agam, Hainu Siddur Sharab. Isn't Agam like a side street, Siddur Sharab? Lo, Agam Lechud, Siddur Sharab. Lechud, Agam is considered to be, right, a property where you can't make a kinyan. It's a marshland. Siddur Sharabim is considered a public domain, so you can make a kinyan over there. So therefore, a get is like Siddur Sharabim, which is like Rosh Hashanah, which is considered an open domain, which you can make in a kinyan, right? Ikadam, a different way of explaining this statement. Amrle Migoreshes. The response was Migoreshes Mirav Nachman, as opposed to saying before Anna Migoreshes. Rav Shmuel, the halacha was, this is how we paskin, and she is Migoreshes. If you say, here's a get, and the get will take effect in 30 days, and they leave it in the Siddur Sharabim. It does work. Rav Nachman, Siddur Sharabim ka'agam dami. Like Rav Nachman says that if it's found in the agam, it's like Siddur Sharabim. Siddur Sharabim is considered a private enough property where you can make a kinyan. Adarabba, and Migoreshes, maybe not Migoreshes, and Rav Shmuel. Rav and Shmuel say if it's in Rosh Hashanah, you can't make a kinyan. My love, Hainu Sharabim, behind Siddur Sharabim, aren't they the same thing? Lo, Sharabim, Lechud, Siddur Sharabim. According to this way of saying it, Sharabim is a public domain. You can't make a kinyan over there. It's exposed to everybody. It's a side street. So then you could make a kinyan, and therefore the gerushin would take effect like an agam. The Mishnah says, Hamoshev is ishto chenvanis, Oshamina aputropia. He makes his wife, right, he wants to sit and learn Kol. If you listen to my shir yesterday in The Real Me, we talked about that he wants to learn Kol the whole time. He wants to let his wife take care not only all the obligations in the house, but also the financial obligations. He makes his wife the CEO of his company or the CEO of his store. Or Shemina Petrapia, he makes her the store owner. She's taking the cash in the store. Or Shemina Petrapia, or she's the CEO of his company. Hareza Mashbia Kozman Shirtza, or just in charge of all his money. He's Mashbia Kozman Shirtza, right? Technically, all the money belongs to the husband. Mashakana Ishta Kana Baila, so he can take a shvu any time that she's not stealing for herself. Rabbi says even on small things, even if she's not the CEO of his business or the owner of his store, she's not managing his business, even on when she has to sew or she has to make dough, right? Those things also belong to the husband, right? He can make her take a shvu that she's not stealing a little dough, a little bread for herself, she's not sewing a sweater for herself. Unless the husband gives her a shos. The Gemara says, Rebelezer says if you can make a shvua, even if he doesn't make her CEO of the company, he can even make her take a shvua on small things. Did he say this alidei gilgal, meaning if she's a store in charge of the store, she's in charge of the business. So once he makes her take a shvua on the business, so then he can add on to that a shvua on smaller things like the bread that she needs or the scarf that she's sewing. Or maybe Rabbi says he can always make her take a shvua even on small things, even if she's not in charge of the business. So the Gemara says, Tashma, let's try to prove it. They said to Rabbi, you can't enforce this. They take a shvua even on bread and sewing. Right? You can't live with someone. You can't live with a snake in a small house. You know, in a small basket. If we still said you could always take a shvua, right? Even if she's not the head of the store. If it's alidei gilgal, and presumably it's really important to take a shvua, anyone you would, try to, if you're choshesh, if you have a chash, they're stealing money from you, make them take a shvua. They're not stealing money from you. My nafkalamina, right? What does she care so much? The Marian says, Kevan, the Amrle Kevan the diet basrai kuli hai lo matzina adador baharach shall still taina. No. Fine, you could take legitimately. It makes sense to me that if I'm in charge of your store or all your finances, you may take a shvua. But if you're gonna even magagal a shvua, right? So I can't live with you like that. You can't be medaya. You can't be so medactic with me even on small things. So the Gemara hasn't resolved it. So the Gemara says, Tashma. Let's try to bring another proof. Harei shelo pater es isha min haneder umin hashvua. This is the next Mishnah. He doesn't exempt his wife from neder hashvua. Right, it's an ability. If a husband wants, he can exempt his wife from taking a daram and shvua. So Shiva Chanvanas to Shemina Petrapia, he made her in charge of his store. She made her the CEO of his real estate company. Ariza Mashbia Kozman Shirtza, he can make her swear as long as he wants. Lo Shiva Chanvanas to Lomina Petrapia any yachal hashbia. He can't make her take a shvua if she's not in charge of his business. Even if she's not in charge of his business, he could make her take a shvua and he wants. Because she's in charge of the bread and in charge of the sewing. He has to buy the dough, the flour, and he has to buy the raw materials that she makes to sew. You see clearly from this brisa, it warrants a shvua even if she's not in charge of the store or the business. She's just merely doing her job in the house, she's baking bread or she's sewing. He can make her take a shvua l'chadchila on that, and the Rabbanan said you can't enforce that because a person's not going to live like that. He can't live with a snake in a small basket. If someone's always trying to bite him or she's afraid he's going to bite her, not going to have good shalom bayis. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion, where we talk more about your mochel ashtarchel l'chaveiro, your machar ashtarchel l'chaveiro, chazra machlo, machel. The din is machel. Maybe if you're dying din you have to pay it back. And also this concept of priyas balchol mitzvah. What? There's no monetary obligation to pay back a loan. Only a mitzvah to pay back a loan. If he doesn't want to do a mitzvah, makin auto, I should say nafsha. What does that mean? You kill the guy? Hard to understand these gemaras. I will explain them very clearly in Iyach Ben Sion coming up next.